Hello there, Stevos, and welcome back to another episode of Steve's Movie Wrap-Up right here on my YouTube channel, SteveOfficial. Firstly, I just want to say that there is two movies that I'm aware of that are coming to digital platforms here in the UK this week, both on the 19th of May 2025, so that's this coming Monday at the time of recording this. One of them is a Minecraft movie, and the other one is Death of a Unicorn. One movie I've watched, one movie I haven't watched. I've watched a Minecraft movie, but I haven't watched Death of a Unicorn. I should recheck Death of a Unicorn out, especially as it's a horror comedy, and sometimes I do enjoy watching a good old horror comedy. So I will let you know my thoughts on Death of a Unicorn within the next few episodes of the movie wrap-up right here on my YouTube channel, SteveOfficial. Another movie that got released as well this past week over on digital is Snow White as well, the Disney live-action Snow White movie starring Rachel Zegler. Again, another movie that I've not yet watched at the moment in terms of at the cinema or on digital. I'm probably going to wait until Disney Snow White comes out on Disney Plus, and then I'll catch up and watch that then. But now I have watched a few films this week. I think I've watched 2 on streaming and 2 in cinema. It's been a good week this week. Anyway, let's find out what films I've watched and what my thoughts are on both of those films this week in this week's episode of the Movie Wrap-Up. You're watching Steve's Movie Wrap-Up, episode 68, right here on my YouTube channel, SteveOfficial. The first movie we'll be reviewing in this episode is The Assessment. So, the first movie I have watched this week is The Assessment, which I gave 3.5 stars over on Letterboxd. It's in a not-so-distant future where parenthood is strictly controlled, a couple's mysterious 7-day assessment for the rights to have a child unravels into a nightmare, forcing them to question the very foundations of society. So this became available for Amazon Prime Video streaming service subscribers over this past week, which is odd because here in the UK I saw a trailer for this just a few weeks ago when I went to the cinema, so I did think this was reaching the big screen first before streaming over on Amazon Prime, but still, never mind, I've seen the movie regardless, whether it's on the big screen or small screen. Would it have been better on the big screen? I think it would have been. Does it also still work as a movie made for streaming consumption? It does as well, but more importantly, did I enjoy The Assessment? Well, the movie I did enjoy, yes, but as for the actual assessment itself within the movie, I don't think I did, to be honest. The film does star Himesh Patel, the same guy who you'll find in the movie Yesterday about the Beatles, and in another recently released film called Greedy People, which I still need to watch and review, and we'll get around to watching that one as soon as possible. The film does also star Elizabeth Olsen, yes, the same Elizabeth Olsen who plays Scarlet Witch in the MCU, and the film does also star Minnie Driver as well. It's funny because, as I did mention about the fact that I only saw the trailer on the big screen in cinemas just a few weeks ago, I totally forgot that Elizabeth Olsen was in the film until I hit play on this film. The Assessment does come with some really great cinematography at times, and I do think this movie was well made. It also happens to be a directorial debut for the director, as this film is directed by Fleur Fortune, and I will say that Fleur Fortune is indeed a director that we do all need to keep our eyes on in the future, because her for a directorial debut, this was amazing and fantastic as well. The film does come with a total running time of 1 hour 56 minutes, and to be honest, I didn't feel as though the film was its running time. I wasn't checking my phone the entire time this film was on, or seeing how long was left on the film either. The Assessment did indeed leave me interested and intrigued to know what happens next. The last 20 minutes of this film, though, gonna warn you, for anyone who is about to see the film, the last 20 minutes of this film will get you indeed, and is quite sad. I won't go into the details as to why that is the case, but as soon as you watch it, though, you'll find out why for yourselves, thinking about those last 20 minutes of the movie now, even when doing this review. Is the assessment a movie I would recommend? Yes, sure. It's set in this dystopian kind of world, so not only is this classed as a thriller type movie, but there's also that added sci-fi in here. So if you're into sci-fi or thrillers, then I would check this out. The music scoring in this is absolutely incredible, and the performances from Elizabeth and Himesh, they smashed their performances out of the park in this film. I feel as though, is the assessment a film I can see myself going back and rewatching again? I definitely do think this will be one I will go back and rewatch again sometime in the future for sure. But for now though, the assessment is now streaming over on Amazon Prime Video here in the UK. You're cordially invited. You're cordially invited. I gave 2.5 stars over on Letterboxd. You're cordially invited is a movie which was released at the very end of January this year. Decided to start playing catch up with some of these movies that I have missed so far this year, but I remember seeing the trailer for this towards the end of 2024 and decided to give this one a watch when it came out. Things happened to me personally to the point where I couldn't get around to watching anything new on streaming, and it's taken me a while to get back into the swing of things in terms of watching new or recently released movies on streaming. So here we are with a review of You're Cordially Invited, which I have given 2.5 stars on Letterboxd. So what did I think of the film? There is a part of me that would like to say that I did enjoy this, but another part of me that would like to say that I didn't so much enjoy this one, sadly. That's because, firstly, the running time, I felt as though the film clocking in at nearly 2 hours just wasn't good at all. This could have been easily cut down to just 90 minutes, a quick and easy movie to watch rather than a movie that is nearly 2 hours. The film is at times rather basic, standard, and is also rather predictable at times, which is again quite annoying. I will say there are a few comedic laugh out loud pieces of dialogue that I did find funny within the movie, which is a good thing. However, though, not all the jokes do sadly land, and they just feel rather forced in the script. And there's also a scene where Will Ferrell is fighting an alligator, which at that point you just can't seem to take the movie seriously at that point, because I for sure didn't. I will say on a positive note though that the character development in this movie with all the characters involved I thought was rather decent, and I know I said that the film should have been shortened down, which I do agree it should have been, but there is a positive here with the running time, and that is the character development that we got with each character within the film, which is a good thing. You do have Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon who star in the movie, but I do feel as though with two actors who are really well known, they kind of, in a way, felt a little underused in this film, in the sense that we have seen these two in comedy movies before, and it just felt like they didn't bring their A game with them to this film, like we have seen them before in other comedy movies they've done in the past. Is You're Cordially Invited a movie that I'm going to remember? It probably won't be, unfortunately. And is You're Cordially Invited a movie that I would recommend for people who are into their comedy movies? I think if you enjoy a comedy, then sure, give this a watch. But for me, though, this is a comedy that I'll watch once and once only, I'm afraid. You're Cordially Invited is now streaming over on Amazon Prime Video. Final Destination Bloodlines. Final Destination Bloodlines, I gave 3.5 stars over on Letterboxd. Final Destination Bloodlines is the 6th movie in the Final Destination franchise, and I tell you what, it's back on form for this movie compared to the last two movies, which I'm going to say are my least two favourite within the franchise. This film does indeed have more gory and gnarly kills and more fear-inducing things as well that the previous films have had since the start of the franchise. I'll never ever forgive the filmmakers for doing that motorway scene in Final Destination 2. Speaking of Final Destination 2, and I guess all the other Final Destination films for that matter, there's a few callbacks to those films in here which I loved, particularly the lorry with the logs on the back of it from Final Destination 2. That does make a return in here. Also the scene and the dialogue that featured when Tony Todd, the late great actor that is Tony Todd, the dialogue dialogue he says in this movie is rather moving and touching, almost like a final message to us fans of the franchise, which I'm sure will leave a tear in your eye when you hear what he says in this movie. I do also love the fact that before the credits do start to roll, this movie does pay tribute to Tony Todd as well, which was a nice and neat touch to end the movie on, which is great. I will say there are some moments in this film where the CGI, particularly in the death scenes, were quite noticeable. Even in the opening sequence, the CGI is very noticeable there. However, though, what I do love is the characters. The characters in this were rather likeable. Made you feel somewhat emotional when some of these characters die within the film. I will be honest though, I have mostly gave the film positivity. There are some negatives behind the film. As mentioned, there's times where the CGI is rather noticeable, but that being said, the running time, I felt as though the opening scene somewhat dragged, and I wish that it could have been cut down a little bit. I believe the running time for Final Destination Bloodlines does clock in at 1 hour 49 minutes, and I believe this is the longest in the franchise, but I do wish there was certain scenes within this film that they had cut down a little bit. Would I like to see a 7th installment in the Final Destination franchise? Yes, I would indeed, but at the same time, it also depends whether the fans would want that or not, and also depends on how well this movie does at the box office as well. Is Final Destination's Bloodlines a movie I can recommend to the horror community? It is, especially if you have seen the first 5 movies in the franchise, and you're a fan of this franchise, then you're in for a treat when you do give this movie a watch. And will I be rewatching and revisiting this movie when it does get released on digital platforms later this year? Again, of course I will. I do have the first 5 on digital anyways, but I definitely did enjoy this one. So this is one that I can see myself revisiting and rewatching along with the rest of the franchise as well. Final Destination Bloodlines is now showing in cinemas and theatres worldwide. And can I just say that ever since this movie has been released this past week, I went and saw this on opening day. And as soon as this movie came out, I've literally been scrolling through TikTok, and all I keep seeing is all these like various different Final Destination posts that people are posting on TikTok. Some of them are funny, some of them are just them on a highway or on a motorway, and they're seeing all these like lorries with those logs on them and stuff, you know. And there are even people like, you know, there's a lot of things in this movie that I could go on about, but I'm not going to. But there's a lot of things in this movie, though, where, you know, you're going to see certain things and you're never going to look at them in the same way ever again, you know? I mean, I'm just going to give you a prime example. This thing right here, this coin, yeah, I'm never looking at a coin in the same way ever again after seeing this film. And also, you know the song Shout by Lulu, you know, the one that goes, you know you wanna make me shout, da 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 da, shout, da 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 da, shout, da 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 da, you know that one? Yeah, I'm never hearing that in the same way ever again, you know. And you know, and there's some other songs in here. Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash is another song I can never listen to in the same way again after watching this film. And what else is there? Oh, and the other song, which is I Can't Live Living Without You. I can't live anymore. Yeah, I can't, by the way, that's my best singing voice, okay? Honestly, without any, like, auto-tuning or anything like that. But anyway, that song, though, yeah, I can't listen to that song in the same way ever again either. So, thank you, Final Destination. Thank you so much. Oh, and before I do wrap up this review for Final Destination Bloodlines, there is one last thing I will say, very quick. And that is that the last couple of lines within the script for Tony Todd's character, it wasn't even scripted. Like, literally, obviously they were aware that Tony Todd's health was sadly declining, so they told him, you know, this could be your last movie, and therefore, you know, just say whatever you want to say, you know. But What he did say, though, the last couple of lines, it will touch you as a fan of the franchise, as a fan of Tony Todd. You know, what he does say, directly to the fans, directly to us, the viewers, it will touch you. Like, it really, really will, honestly. It was such a fitting end for that character who, if the franchise does continue without, obviously the franchise could continue without Tony Todd, but if it does, I mean, you know, it's going to be sad because he won't be able to appear in any more of the films, but also as well, like, you know, it's just fitting, you know, it was just a fitting send-off for that character in the 6th installment. Anyway, like I said, Final Destination Bloodlines is now showing in cinemas and theatres worldwide. Thunderbolts. And the final movie that I have watched this week is Thunderbolts, which I gave 3.5 stars over on Letterboxd. Thunderbolts is the latest movie from the MCU and is the answer to DC's Suicide Squad. Hold on. This movie isn't actually titled Thunderbolts because the real title of the movie was officially announced 4 days after the release of the movie. Marvel couldn't wait a week after the film released before officially revealing the title. They had to wait until after opening weekend before officially revealing the title behind the film. And to be honest, either way, the official title of the film would have been spoiled for me on social media regardless, because either the die-hard MCU fans would have spoiled it on opening weekend after watching the film, or Marvel could have waited a week after the release of the film to reveal the title of the film, which would have still been spoiled for me as I arrived late to the party to watch and review the new Marvel movie. So, as mentioned, the new Marvel movie isn't officially titled Thunderbolts. What is its actual title? The New Avengers. Its actual title is The New Avengers, and I think it's safe for me to reveal that title now, as the film has been released for a good couple of weeks and most MCU fans have probably now watched the film, so I can officially say the title of the film in this review without anyone complaining, saying I've spoiled the movie for them. So there we go. Now also, you know, we might as well change the poster, you know, that's next to me. You know, we might as well at this point. But the New Avengers, by the way, does also come with a post-credit scene, which not only does it set up for Avengers Doomsday, which is allegedly releasing in May 2026, which I feel as though is going to get delayed because they've only just started filming that film over the last couple of weeks, and some of the actors who are starring in the film have recently revealed that they haven't even been given the scripts for the film yet. Unless they're lying about that. But regardless though, the film does also come with the longest post-credit scene in the MCU movies so far, clocking in around 2.5 minutes. But what did I think of the New Avengers? I thought it was a rather decent movie, to be honest. The first MCU movie in a long while that I have enjoyed watching on the big screen. Admittedly, I haven't seen Captain America Brave New World, which is coming to Disney Plus worldwide on the 28th of May 2025, for those who haven't seen that yet, which I haven't, so I'm sure I'll watch it and review it around then. But from the people who I know who have already seen it, they did say that they didn't really enjoy it too much. But I'll let you know my thoughts on that film at a later date. Anyways, there is a subtle reference for Captain America Brave New World in the film, where Harrison Ford's character, who in that film is the president, he turns into Red Hulk, and that is referenced in the New Avengers. But what I will say though is, with the New Avengers, it does deal and handle with grief and trauma in a sensitive way. I thought it was handled in a good way. These characters that we see on screen, they have all done bad things in the past, and there are some really great performances in here from the likes of Florence Pugh, Sebastian Stan and David Harbour. I really like seeing these characters team up to become the New Avengers, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of them when we next see them in Doomsday next year, hopefully. Is the New Avengers a movie I would recommend to the MCU fans, whether they're die-hard or just the average MCU fan? I mean, if you're a die-hard fan, then there's a likely chance you've seen this, but if, like myself, you were unsure about seeing this and you're just the average MCU fan, then I do recommend seeing the film. Some really great action sequences in here as well. I will say that I did used to class myself as a die-hard MCU fan, but now become the average fan because I don't really watch all the MCU shows on Disney Plus anymore like I used to, and I've become slightly less interested in the MCU in a way over the last couple of years, but maybe that could all change depending on how the next couple of MCU movies pan out, which is Fantastic Four: The First Steps, which releases in July 2025, and then Avengers Doomsday, which releases in 2026 in cinemas. I do reckon as well that the new Avengers movie is a movie that I can see myself going back to and rewatching again from time to time as well. David Harbour had some brilliant dialogue in this movie, which did have me laughing at times as well. I absolutely love his character Red Guardian. I love his charm, charisma, and also his wittiness, and the chemistry he also has with his on-screen daughter Yelena, who is played by Florence Pugh. The new Avengers is now showing in cinemas and theatres worldwide. And that is it for this week's episode of Steve's Movie Wrap-Up right here on my YouTube channel, Steve Official. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what movies you guys have watched this week, whether it's old, new, in cinemas, on Blu-ray, on streaming, on VHS, on DVD. Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, if you are new around here and you like what you see, feel free to hit that subscribe button to become a Stevo as well. I will be back with your next YouTube video tomorrow, Monday the 19th of May 2025 at 4 PM UK time, so feel free to check that out then. And your next episode of Steve's Movie Wrap Up right here on my YouTube channel, Steve Official, will be coming up on Sunday the 25th of May 2025, so do feel free to check that out then. Until then though, it's goodbye, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys again in my next YouTube video.